Alright, what we're going to do now is show you how to replace the mechanical seal within the bracket as well as the ceramic seat that's installed into the impeller. So again, as we mentioned earlier, you can see some of the abrasion and the pitting on the mechanical seal face.
Bring that closer.
As well as some leaking that was going on from the back of the bracket here. Alright, so what you would like to have, if possible, is a arm press like this, an arbor press. Easiest way to do this, to press out the seal, is just to set the bracket on the front side, and with a socket or a nut or a screw that's big enough, or a bolt that can fit in place of the back of the mechanical seal, you want to rest that in place, and then you can press out the seal from the back side. Comes out pretty easily. And what you'll see here is just some glue residue that's on the inside bore of the bracket. So generally at this point you want to let the bracket soak in some water to clean it up a little bit. And with a pocket knife or a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, you just want to kind of clean up the inside of the bore a little bit, just to get some of this glue residue off. And after you clean up the bracket, just want to grab yourself a new mechanical seal. And what we use here is a glue called gasket cinch. It's just an automotive sealant. We could supply you guys with a gasket cinch, or I believe you can pick it up at automotive places as well. If you don't have access to the gasket cinch, you could also use just regular silicone that'll dry and seal as well. Just want to put a layer on the inside of the borehole. It doesn't need to be too thick, just a nice little coating. And you also want to just get the outside of the seal case of the new mechanical seal. We have this jig that kind of holds the bracket in place, and as you can see, there's a little step on this part which will kind of rest in the back side of the bracket here. You just want to set the seal inside, and with this other jig that we'll be able to supply Mr. Coy with, and just kind of press gently down. Just want to make sure everything's even. Just give it a good little pull to make sure it's in all the way and bottomed out. You don't need to crank down on it too bad.
When pressing the mechanical seal head, be certain the jig press is clean. It's important the jig press does not hit the mechanical seal faces and only makes contact with the seal body collar. Provide a slow and firm press to ensure even compression to the seal bore.
Alright, so now we've pressed in the mechanical seal face. You can see some of the glue residue that squeezed out on the front as well as the back side. Everything pressed in evenly. So after this, you want to grab a lint-free cloth and some rubbing alcohol to clean the mechanical seal face. And this will just remove any excess glue that might have been exposed to the seal face or any other debris. And you can use water, although rubbing alcohol is better to use. And you can see some of the residue that already came off. And before you install the bracket and the impeller onto the motor shaft, you want to clean it again a second time. So we got that pressed in. Now we're going to move on to the impeller. And the ceramic seal seat, there's a couple of ways you could remove the seal seat. One way is to just grab a pair of pliers. You can bite down on the outside edge of the ceramic seat, kind of twist and pull out at the same time, and that'll remove it as well. What we use here is a little jig. Just has a little pin with a little hook on it, and it allows you just to get right inside and you can pry that seat out. Sometimes this rubber boot will have a tendency to stay on the inside, so you could just pry that out with a knife or a flathead screwdriver. Before you install the new seal seat, you just want to clean the inside of this hub. Make sure there's not any residue or anything like that inside. It looks pretty clean. And what we use to install the new ceramic seat is a rubber lubricant called P80. You could use this, any type of rubber lubricant, or you could even use water as an easy solution, but we would recommend a rubber lubricant. And basically what you want to do is just put a coat on the inside of the ceramic, or the impeller itself. And you could also just put a thin layer on the rubber casing. And the easiest way to start it off is just to make sure you set the impeller in place, or the seat in the impeller. Make sure it's kind of flat, and you can just press it in by hand. And to make sure it's in all the way, you can lay a clean paper towel on a flat tabletop surface and just kind of rock the impeller back and forth. That way you can see it's pressed in evenly all the way around. And now that that's pressed in straight, again with a lint-free cloth and some more rubbing alcohol, just want to wipe the ceramic seal seat, get any residue or lubrication that might have dripped on this face. Just make sure that's clean. Looks good. And now we've installed the ceramic seal seat. Alright, now that we've completed the seal installation, we're going to just want to rebuild the pump back onto the motor. So again, before you start, again, just to double check, make sure the seal face is clean. So a lint-free cloth with some rubbing alcohol. Just want to go over the mechanical seal face again one more time, just to make sure everything's clean. Now before you install the bracket onto the pump, this little L, that's just a little reminder telling you that that's the top of the pump assembly. So you just want to make sure this is going to be on the top of the motor, and this flat surface down here is going to be at the bottom. So you want to be careful when you thread, or when you put the bracket over the shaft of the motor. You don't want to damage the seal face any. So just want to gently put that over. Align the bracket to the motor bolt holes. And just tighten up that bracket. These bolt holes are their 9/16, so you can just tighten them down with a socket wrench. Just set the motor on the base now, and we want to thread the impeller back onto the motor shaft. Again, lint-free cloth and some rubbing alcohol, just to wipe the seal faces clean. And now we want to carefully thread the impeller back onto the shaft, making sure it bottoms all the way out. You give it a little spin back and forth, and that'll ensure you that the impeller's bottomed out to the motor shaft. Now we've completed the installation of the seals and the installation of the bracket and impeller back to the motor.